All right, and we're back. Mild Sauce Live on a Saturday afternoon, jamming out to some fucking badass local hardcore. Like I said earlier, we're going to be dipping in and out of local stuff. We're going to be bouncing around across the country. So, previously, we were checking out Los Crudos with Crudo Soy. Then we dipped into Futura out of the West Coast with Spit on the Flag, and then back to the South Side of Chicago with Fuerza Bruta with how are we going with this one, Jake?
How do you say it?
Yeah, I this is gonna be just Steve butchering the majestic Spanish language
Yeah,
all afternoon.
I was gonna say I'm not exactly a resident Spanish here, but
I don't want to miss myself, and I don't want to insult insult the language. In all
yeah, no,
honesty,
yeah.
but no, Fuerza Bruta. Like I said, local band. I've had the pleasure of checking them out many fucking times over the last several years. They're so fucking good. And I really love the fact that we've got a local oi scene that's like fucking solid as fuck and burgeoning, in the city. And we're gonna be checking out a little bit more of that later with some Riesco. But like I said, we're which is a couple of months ago at Chi Town, and really cool to guys. Um, you know, to that point, I think in the context of talking about this, quinceañeras, during the party, or like I said, there's so much cool stuff where one hand I'm disappointed.
Well, Steve has been plugging that place like every.
In to like chat with them because locations like pop up and it seems like, oh, you're for the last 6 months it's like every show I've seen has been at Reggie's or Subterranean or different spots around the city, and I wonder like because if you're in the scene for a while and you're kind of thinking a little bit long term, there's definitely an ebb and flow, and then sometimes you're like, it's been a while since I've been to the Beat Kitchen. Wonder what's going on there, you know?
Yeah, no, I feel you. Sorry for the. We're having some. We're just gonna plow through them. We're not gonna back down from these little issues we're dealing with today. Apologies to everybody out there watching. Um, Man, it's just fuck Comcast. Like it's just the internet situation at my home has just fallen apart over the last few weeks. So I guess I have to make a visit. So that's on me. We're gonna rock through it. You can always listen. This thing is gonna be up on iTunes podcast and everywhere
Yep.
else, so you can catch it there. The audio is pure. The audio is just like Chi-Town football. And yeah, we're gonna get through this shit. But yeah, just so you guys know, this is a little beneath our usual operating procedures, and we apologize for that.
But we are always overcoming challenges on our
DIY
Saturday
all the
afternoons.
way, man.
Yep.
We got it. Look, now as we say that, we're clearing up and looking great. This is everything works out, man. It's
All
gonna be
good.
fine.
All good. We're
So
drinking beers. We're listening to music.
Yeah, it was a little. Sorry, I was a little off the beaten track for the show. But all right, so we're back. Chi-Town football is.
But,
go ahead, continue.
Well,
what you
no,
were saying.
like I
I'll
was
cut
saying,
you
kind of
off.
like in the greater scheme of things, I've just noticed over the years, it's like sometimes it's like, oh, I find myself at Reggie's a lot, or I find myself at Sub T a lot, or Beat Kitchen a lot, and it seems like it's in like tight proximity, and I wonder like how much of that is the booking agents and or how much of it is just the nature of the bands as they kind of flow through the cities and stuff, and then put into the mix like the weirdness that you're getting with the uprising of these big summer festivals in Chicago with, you know what I mean, like Lala and Pitchfork and Riot Fest and all those weird like contractual limitations that they get, you know what I mean?
That's true too. I mean, also, we talked about Bottom Lounge quite a bit in the last episode about how Bottom Lounge was interesting because they used to be such a big. I mean, they've like gone back and forth. Like when you bring up Bottom Lounge shows, they sound weird to me because I went to Bottom Lounge to see like Rocky Fresh and Chance back in the day and stuff like that.
Right. So and this year there's been some like
a lot of rock shows there now.
There's been rock shows there, but like really aggressive rock shows. I think like some of the most aggressive sets I've been to this season has definitely been at Bottom.
Turnstile show there?
Turnstile, that was violent as fuck. That was probably one of the most violent shows I've been to this year.
That was like you just went to war or some shit.
No, it was great. I mean, like I don't speak of it.
Men at that Turnstile
show. that was a tough show. You know what I mean? Like the fans were raw and they were really into it. And then the Nails show at the beginning of the year, they were fucking, they were on point, and that was a rough show. And then Code Orange, that was just fucking. That was a pretty fucking raucous pit too. And
what's like the most ridiculous thing you have seen or you yourself have done in a pit to date?
And this
implicating yourself too much.
Speaking of Bottom Lounge, if you'll think back to the original Bottom Lounge, which was by the Belmont Red Line stop, before they leveled it to deal with the expansion of the tracks in our lovely new Belmont Red Line station. But it was under there, and the old venue, they literally had a support pole in the middle of the pit. And I used to live walking distance away from that venue, and there was definitely one or two shows where I'd like wake up completely bruised the next day with like just horrible like beer stains from like my ankle all the way up the side of my pants. And you're piecing the next morning together, and you're like, what in the fuck happened? And it's like, oh, I hit that pole.
Like you just ran full speed, not looking at you.
Yeah.
Like spinning.
That'll get you. You know what I mean? If you're caught up in the pit and caught up in the action. But another one I would say, there's the scene in terms of like violence and stuff is like evolved over the years, and I think back to way back in the day. I think back, one of the most violent shows I ever went to was Circle Jerk's 10th anniversary show at the Vic.
10th anniversary of the Circle Jerks. Who would have missed that?
Right, exactly. Right, it was not to be missed. It was a it was a spectacular evening out, if I recall. It was opening was the Weirdos and oh shit, who was it? TSOL. And this is back in the day when the city still had a bit of a skinhead presence, and there was definitely some sharps and some cashes that were trolling around in the pit that evening. And me being young, I had long hair, and definitely in the minority, and people got beat downs pretty violently during the course of that evening. That's one to remember. Another one I think back to was Primus, Anthrax, and Public Enemy at the Aragon Theater. And that was a weird mesh of, this was Public Enemy at the height of their popularity. I believe it was, Fear of a Black Planet era. So they were on top of their game. So you had a big hip hop crowd, and this was like Anthrax when Nirvana was getting big, grunge, kind of pushing that style of heavy metal to the wayside. So it was like Anthrax still kind of holding on to their what they had going with them, and then this big hip hop crowd, and that was a violent fucking show. I remember the pit for that was extra violent.
Did you ever see like a dude just get like a full folding chair to the face or something like that, or like some dude just gets speared from the stage? Like,
it's been a long fucking time, but the Aragon Theater used to put chairs out in the center, that area, and the chairs they had were wood and metal folding chairs, like old style, like 50s, 40s, like wood and metal
like the first
folding chairs. And I went and saw Jane's Addiction on the Ritual tour before they broke up, and Henry Rollins opened. So it was Rollins Band and Jane's Addiction at the Aragon, and they had seats, wooden seats laid out for that show. And during the Rollins set, I had gotten up into the pit, and it was all general admission. There was no assigned seats. So it was just like first come, first serve, just a crush to get to these seats.
Right.
And then crazy. We were super stoked on that show, so we wanted to get there early. So we got there, way early. We got up in the front where they had like a barricaded off like pit right under the stage, and then they had like 2 rows, so a center section and then 2 side sections of these wood seats. Rollins Band came out, and instantly the first 5 rows of those wood seats up, off, and out into the pit.
Just tossing them.
So 20 minutes into the show, like you were dodging folding chairs that were going overhead, but then they were falling and crashing on the floor, so then they were breaking. So like you're dodging chairs from above, and then from below there's just like broken wood and metal. And you're in a pit, and you're like running around.
That sounds like a war story for real.
That was definitely one of the more aggro pits I've been into. But kind of looping back, why don't we dive into some more music, or do we got a little bit of a?
Let's do it up.
All right, so another band that I think we've talked about plenty of times over the course of the year, if I'm not mistaken. This goes back almost all the way to episode number 1, where we were talking about anticipations and bands to check out and look for in the over the course of the year. And this is Downtown Boys with Somos Chulos, No Somos Pendejas. And
you're getting better.
I try. I really feel bad about like fucking this up, so I do try and make an effort. Oh, man, but Downtown Boys, they're so fucking amazing. I've seen them several times over the years. I actually, one year I was down in Austin for South by, and I was walking down the street, and they were eating pizza, like out at a cafe on the sidewalk. So, I actually had a chance to like walk up and try not to be too weird and fangirl.
Oh my God.
Exactly. But no, super fucking cool band. Like I said, they played a bunch of times in Chicago. I've caught them several times. I've caught them in venue settings. I've caught them in street fair settings. I've caught them, you know what I mean, like all sorts of different ways, and they never fail to impress. Super fucking cool band. So why don't we dip into it? Downtown Boys out of the East Coast. If I'm not mistaken, they are Connecticut punk.
Ooh, Connecticut punk. Here it comes. Mild Sauce Radio.
Don't be
we're back. Mild Sauce Live Saturdays, Steve Breit Rock Discovery Show. We were checking out Downtown Boys before, and then we rolled right into Alice Bag, which, astute listeners would recall we just covered them, I think a month or two ago, and I liked the pairing of these two tracks that we listened to,
Speaking of pairings, it occurs to me that I segued you off the beer earlier, and you have not introduced the beer yet.
Well, all right. So for our beer, we've got Paletas Gumbaya, which is a wheat beer with guava, and it is locally made in beautiful Bedford Park, Illinois. And this is a 3.5 ABV wheat fruit beer. It's very nice. I like it.
You brought this light beer because I've been giving you shit about knocking me out on Saturdays with those heavy ass beers.
I was hunting because we've covered, we've had a couple of different Five Rabbit beers over the course of the year. It's a little bit more of a summer beer, I will say. But
I just took a sip of it and it told me like you're not gonna feel like shit from this.
No, it's not.
It's an uplifting beer.
It's a 3.5. It's not super hoppy. It's pretty low on the IBU scale. And I think it's meant as, a summer session beer. Us being in Chicago, we can get local brews a little bit later into the season. So this was one of the ones where I definitely knew we didn't play with this one in the past. And it's one of the beers. I've had a lot of their beers. And so it was like, it's a little bit more of a summer fruit beer, akin to Ruby Redbird or Revolution Rosa or Raspberry Tart from New Glarus. It's some of those more. I wouldn't like. It's a fruit beer, but it's not, because it's guava. It's not like super sweet.
No, it's drinkable. Mm-hmm. It's a drinkable fruit.
Yeah, I mean, as we've seen, I've killed a couple, 2, 3 of these.
All right, my bad. Get back to Alice Bag.
All right, so like I said,
today.
Back to Alice Bag. She was fucking amazing when she played Chi-Town a few months ago, and actually that was one of the tracks she played when she performed. It was Modern Day Virgin Sacrifice, which I thought bookended nice off of the Downtown Boys, Somos Chulos, no Somos Pendejas, which, in my naivete, I believe roughly translates to "we're beautiful, we're not assholes or bitches," or and then the thematics out of Modern Day Virgin Sacrifice is a mother looking at a daughter and how society and stigma and your cosmopolitan magazines and Instagram and the Kardashians and how all of these unattainable, let's say, structures are put on, women in their formative years. So I thought it was a nice bookend, and two just great fucking bands.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm. But and stylistically, I think attitudinally they were kind of right in there. So that was a nice little bookend. And I think once we get back into it, we get back local. So the next track we're going to check out is another awesome fucking Chicago band that I've had the opportunity and pleasure to see before. It's Riesco with Ariesco. And then we're going to jump into another local band after that, Blistex with Mimendo Sola.
All right, let's check it out. We got two local bands from Chicago coming at you on the Steve Breit Rock Discovery Show.
Mild Sauce Live. It's kind of hot. and we're back. Mild Sauce Live. It's kind of hot. Just jamming out to Riesco and Blistex. And as I was telling Jake while the tracks were playing, I have seen several times most of the bands on this week's episode, except for Blistex. I have yet to check them out. Not for lack of trying. You know, as is the problem with a lot of these bands and specific prayers at the top of the set. They played last year, I think mid-August, down here in Pilsen, and that was like the week that I'm up in Wisconsin fishing. So I
Can't change that.
I can't, and it was definitely, I specifically remember because I was like, God damn it, it's gonna be like 4 days into my vacation and they're going to be playing. Is there any fucking possible way that I can get back to Chicago to see that set? No, I can't do it.
No way.
So I'm definitely on the lookout for the next time Prayers come to Chicago. And obviously, Blistex being local, I've been looking forward to checking them out in upcoming episodes or upcoming months. The next band we're going to check out, I have had the opportunity to see several times, and a little bit moved away from the more hardcore punk that we've been checking out for the last few songs. Pardon me.
Live.
La Armada. They are fucking amazing. They are Dominican hardcore transplants into the city, and the city is better for it. They are a cross-genre band that is fucking amazing in their technical skill level. I really like them. And they have, I think by way of the music that they make, they can fit easily into the hardcore scene, playing with bands like Udisic and playing with your more traditional Chicago hardcore. And at the same time, they can easily transition into a more metal atmosphere with kind of the technicality of their songs and a little bit more drawn out, orchestration and structure rather than you're in, you're out, your verse, chorus, verse of the hardcore punk genre. And I think I've seen La Armada about 4 or 5 times at least. And the last time I got an opportunity to see a 3 o'clock set on a Sunday, I believe, at Riot Fest last year.
Oh, yeah.
And we talked about them on an earlier episode.
I remember this story, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they were fucking great last year. They're always great. One of the things that specifically stands out to me about La Armada, like I said, not to give like short shrift to anybody in the band, but their drummer is a fucking beast. And you'll be able to check it out for yourself on the upcoming track. But seeing a band where you just have just such a precise and skillful drummer, it's really a sight to see. And the entire band is just like stop on a dime tight. You can always look forward to a really good, really tight set from this band. And just as a fan of musicianship and structure, I really appreciate their drumming, their backbone of older tracks off of their Crisis EP, and I think their last full length. But the next song we're gonna check out is off of that that most current record that came out right after we talked about them last. It's Anti-Colonial Volume 1. This is Dominican hardcore by way of Chicago, and very prescient with the with the neighborhood, with local what's going on in the city. And this is one of the reasons that they don't shy away about talking about stuff in the city. And this track is Home and Square, where everybody who's in the city who knows that's the Chicago Police black site, so right. They're not shying away from local issues. So why don't we dip into it? So this is La Armada with Home and Square off of their new record Anti-Colonial Volume 1.
Let's check it out.
They come to serve and protect. All revolters spread terror. All trained to serve and protect. The threat is real. Everyone is suspect. They smell your fear. They cannot people. No record, no trace. They can swear. Protect. Everyone is suspect. Everyone is suspect. They come to serve. The silence is suffocating, deafening. When darkness blinds your sight.
We're back. Mild Sauce Live, kind of hot. Steve Breit Rock Discovery Show with a couple quick ones. Like I said, we were jamming out to La Armada with Home and Square, track off of their most current album. And then we dipped into Social Quarantine with Information Overload, another awesome local band, raw as fuck, that I had an opportunity to check out earlier this year. Both bands, fucking amazing. Really cool representation. And I think, pardon me. We are getting towards the end of the episode this week. We're just about at an hour, so not to leave anybody out. I want to give some shout outs. So shout out to Jake, of course, who with whom this episode would not be possible. So thanks to Jake. Thanks to everybody at Mild Sauce. We got the 3-piece. We had a awesome morning show today. Tell me a little bit about that fighter. I mean, that was really cool. We were watching his fights before the episode. So
Yeah, we had our man Chris Owsley. He goes by Millie. He's 5-0, a undefeated local Southside Chicago boxer. Sean Grant got him on the show, or Portia King actually got him on the show, but then she didn't show up. So me and Sean got the chance to sit down with him. But really cool cat, man. He's very focused, and he's got a fight November 10th over in Hammond, Indiana. I think like the whole Mild Sauce team might gang up and go out and lose their money at the casino with. But no, I'm excited for him, man. It was really cool to see someone from the city who's doing some big things. So expect a lot from Chris Owsley very soon.
yeah, so shout out to Chris Owsley. Very cool stuff. Very cool stuff going on the 3-piece, and shout out to the backcourt. They are ramping up to get back into the full swing with the season this year.
Season's back, so backcourt's coming.
Mm-hmm. And who else? We got DJ Police State, Mars, and
State. We got the Grade A Living crew.
There we go, Grade A Living.
And Kingsley, the whole gang. We got a whole bunch of stuff going on. I don't know, man. We got shout out to Jay, just Jay. He's out here hustling. He's been hustling the last couple months. So
Jay's a cool guy.
We'll be back soon. But yeah, no, we got a lot of stuff going. We got some new shows coming on soon. There's a lot of stuff happening at Mild Sauce all the time. So.
Yep. So check out Mild Sauce. We got you covered.
Covered.
But yeah, and I think that that kind of gets us towards the end of the set. So we're gonna go out on two songs, two local bands that have been stalwarts in the city for years. And like I said, I appreciate everything these guys have done. And you know, it's interesting. I think, pardon me again, man, this is making me a little bit burpy.
Guava.
It's the guava, I guess. But we were going to wrap this week's episode up with Limp Wrist and go out with a little bit of Ministry. So, you know, I thought it was interesting, kind of going back to the top of the episode, me giving ample praise to Martin Saranda, not only with his contributions to the amazing Los Crudos, but with also Limp Wrist. It's really cool to have these, you know, such quality fucking musicians in the city and give you an opportunity to go out there and check them out and personal and, you know, say hi after the show and talk to people. You know, it's really cool, and the scene fosters that awesomeness. And so we're going to check out Limp Wrist with a track called Dead Artist, which is not your typical hardcore, but bookending where we went with the first track of the episode with Prayers. And because of the fact that we're not going to be able to do a Halloween episode before the fact, I wanted to go out on an oldie but a goodie. So we're going to go with, you know, Cuban-born Al Jurgensen and Ministry with Every Day is Halloween. And a nice little electronic bookend, kind of tying back a little bit to the Cold Waves episode last week and its appreciation of the wonderful Wax Trax record label that was so cool in fostering that sound, and Ministry was a real stalwart and groundbreaking, you know, integral piece of that puzzle.
All right.
So let's do it.
Let's check it out.
So yeah, until next week, cheers, and keep on discovering the rock.
We'll be back again soon. This is Limp Wrist, followed by Ministry, and this has been the Steve Breit Rock Discovery Show, episode 30 on Mild Sauce Radio. It's kind of hot.
Chromoless world. Chromoless world. But now beige. Chromoless world. Chromoless world. Chromoless world. And now beige. Chromoless world. You had your way. You had your way. You had your way. We've all vanished, we're all erased. We've all vanished, we're all erased. We've all vanished, we're all erased. This world, that now beige. Live in it, die in it. All the artists are dead. We watch you.